Welcome, my friends. The story I brought to you today will blow your mind. For those of you that are not very familiar with Bible stories, this is about David and his first wife, Michal, the daughter of Saul that David married with 204 skins of the Philistines. We know
Jesus.
that David is the man after God's own heart. He was once the king of Israel. Before he became king, there was, of course, a king ahead of him, King Saul. These are all Bible stories, very controversial at that. But believe you me, there are no evidences that these people ever existed on this planet Earth. No records of Saul anywhere. David, of course, was a sweetheart of the Christians. So, in every way possible, they are trying to convince us that there was a person that ever lived that was bearing David in certain kingdom like that. So some monuments in certain area around a palace once had names like David written on the walls. Maybe children playing around wrote David on the walls with chalk or with black charcoal. That time there were no papers and all of that. So understandable. So that was the march we could get as evidence of David having ever existed in this life. Take this as just an entertainment. So David was a king that God chose while Saul was still reigning. Remember that Saul was supposed to be a leader, but along the way he became a tyrant. So God rejected him while he was still on the throne and anointed David. So while Saul was trying to make waves as a king on the throne, David was overshadowing him by anointing. I'm sure you must have heard in some passages in the Bible where the women were singing that Saul killed 10,000, David killed 100,000, or something like that. So anointing was making David to operate with different set of rules. Remember that they took over some lands that God promised to them when they came out of Egypt, right? And these lands originally belonged to other people that lost favor with God for reasons we didn't know. So, and they had to kill and wipe out the original owners of the land in order to acquire the land and live there in peace. So, throughout the time Israelites were acquiring and overtaking people's lands, swords never departed from Israel. They were always fighting wars. Because of this waves that this young boy David was making, Saul became jealous of him. You know how he first sent him to go and fight Goliath. You know how annoying this thing can be. You are a president and all of a sudden there is this Nnamdi Kanu or someone from one place that just came up and started making noise and waves and trying to take people's attention from you. No president would like the fact that he will be in power and there is another opposition that was really making waves and people seem to be liking him more than the president. Naturally, the president will be very mad and jealous of this person and would want to, destroy and subdue the person by all means, just like Nnamdi Kanu was put in prison. So that was like what was going on between King Saul and David at that time. David was not the king, but he was the one that had the favor of the people, the love of the people, the one the people chose. You get what I'm saying? So that was how he fell out of favor with the king. So this is why King Saul was really trying to destroy David. That was exactly the scenario. Someone that was kind of opposing the government in a right way. So Saul was trying to destroy him by all means. And luckily for him, his daughter, Michal, declared love for David. I'm in love with this young man, that is making these whole waves. Of course, David was the hero amongst the women at that time. He was handsome, he was strong, so he was politically relevant, and everybody knew that someday David would become the king of Israel. Of course, who wouldn't fall in love with him? So King Saul sent his servants to fetch David, and David refused to come. David said, "No, who am I to marry king's daughter? How much do I have? Please, oh." and no fit. And King Saul sent message back to him. Don't worry, come on. I'm not going to request silver and gold from you. I know you don't have. The only thing I need is 100 foreskin from when you have a baby boy and you are going to circumcise him on the 8th day. That foreskin that you will remove from the penis in order to get the real shape of the Obuamu shape. That was what King Saul wants as the dowry for his daughter. Not one foreskin, not two, not three, 100. What was his plan? Just to get David killed. Because of course, what gịnị ka ị ga-achọkata wee banye na trouser onye ilo gị wee jee bete foreskin ya? Guess what happened? This is where this gist started getting interesting. According to Masoretic Hebrew scriptural text, David went to the Philistines. Instead of getting 100 foreskins that King Saul demanded, he got 200. Take 200, I give you double for my Michal. But another original translation, Septuagint, ancient Greek translation, they maintained that David got just the 100 that King Saul requested. Most of the modern Bible translations went with, instead of getting the 100 that Saul demanded for David, got 200. So this is not where the problem stopped. David married Michal. They were living together. Saul was still planning to take away his life. Remember when he was playing music and Saul threw that javelin or sword at him that got stuck on the wall? He missed out. But he wanted to still utilize that opportunity within that time, that he still wanted to kill David that same night. So he sent his guards to watch David's gates that night, so that if he wakes up and tries to go out for his daily activities in the morning, he will be killed. So Michal leaked this secret to her husband. Do you know that Michal went as far as getting an idol called Teraphim? Teraphim. Laid it on a bed, used goats hairs or whatever to make his head look like a human being, covered him up, and then sneaked David out through the window. Teraphim was supposed to be an idol. I didn't make any meaning out of that name. It means uncertain. The second place I heard of Teraphim was when Jacob ran away from his father-in-law Laban and took his wives with him, and Rachel took his father's idol, Teraphim, and escaped. And when Laban got to know that they had gone, he went and looked at, he searched amongst his things and saw his Teraphim idol was missing. You remember that story? He pursued after them and searched everything they had. The Bible told us that Rachel was having her period, and so she hid the Teraphim where she was sitting down. And you have no right to search a woman that was on her period. We thought that the Teraphim was a very small item, like maybe a golden little cup or something. Only for us to hear now that the Teraphim was a human-sized idol that could be used to deceive the king, lying down on a bed and covered with goat's head. These contradictions are not making a lot of sense. If you are reading the Bible just as anybody, just one chapter, one verse for you to go and read for a purpose, you will not get all this. But if you are a Bible scholar and you are reading the Bible within the context, you are studying the connections of the Bible heroes, and you are reading it from the original sources and translations, it will be very hard for you to believe most of the stories that were compiled in the Bible. First of all, the president and his cousin, Saul and Abner, were supposed to be allies, but they were enemies. I understood that one. Then you are telling me that of all the things in this world you would have asked for, you asked for the foreskin of the Philistines as the dowry for your daughter. The Bible did not record what he did with the foreskins. David escaped from Saul the third time. This story started from 1 Samuel to 2 Samuel. Some things happened in between that if I begin to bring all of them together, the story will really be too long. Problems continued to the point where Saul took his daughter away from David again. He really never wanted for them to be in-laws. He just wanted to use Michal to get David. But when he saw that his plans didn't work, he took his daughter away and married her off to another man called Palti. But again, to make David remain the righteous hero, the man after God's own heart, God's favorite, do you know that the Bible said that Paltiel and his wife Milcah, whom he married in every way, did not consummate their marriage. They never slept with each other the whole years they were married. Every night when they lie down, they will put a sword in between them. For what? Hi. So they were always putting a sword in between them so that their bodies will not touch. And they continued like this until Saul died. King Saul died. Then his cousin, who was the army commander, Abner, started making waves. He was working under King Saul. You know how it is in politics. If you become a president of a country, your relatives, your friends, your acquaintances will get political positions, right? But along the line, you know how it is. Some problems will definitely arise that will make some people that are amongst your cabinet members to become your enemy. Saul was the son of Kish, right? And Abner was the son of Ner. Meanwhile, while Micah was married to Paltiel, David himself was also married to another woman. He wasn't waiting for Michal. He got married to another woman called Ahinoam, right? Ahinoam was the second woman David married, while his wife was married to another man. Abner rose up. Immediately King Saul died, Abner became famous. And Abner started making waves. While he was the army commander, Saul's son took over power for a short while. Ishbosheth or Ishbal, I call him Ishbosheth or I call him Ishbal, son of King Saul, took over power. Whereas Abner, the army commander of the Israeli troop, was the one that was on the same cadre like with King Saul. So he's an uncle to Ishbosheth, right? He sent a message. This one is a child now, so you can imagine when, let's say, the president died and his son was being handed over power. So all the people that were the cabals of their father, they were stronger than the little boy that was coming up. Now, when Abner wrote a message to David, "Rise, your time has come. You are the real king of Israel. You are the one the people want." Instead of, men are so funny. Instead of David to start dreaming and rejoicing of how he's going to be the king of Israel, the first thing that came to his mind was Michal, the woman that walking away. The woman that was taken away from him. Of course, Abner ran off to Paltiel's house and grabbed Michal, and the man was crying and following them behind. These scriptures make me laugh. Until Abner turned and sent him back. "Would you go back to your house?" So he took Michal back to David. Do you know what he said? He said, "That I may have my wife, whom I married with 100 foreskins of the Philistine." So even though the whole translations that we have now had agreed that Masoretic scriptural text of the Hebrews was correct in saying that it was actually 200 that he gave. Now in 2 Samuel chapter 3 verse 14, David said something different from what we got in, I think, 1 Samuel chapter 18 verse 27, where we started the story. Go and read these two stories are close. 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel. So you get that the first one, they said Saul demanded for 100 and he gave 200. Now, David was confirming in 2 Samuel chapter 3 verse 14 that he married Michal for 100 foreskins. So was it that he himself minused the 100 he gave extra? Or was it that Septuagint of the ancient Greek was actually correct by insisting that it was the 100 that was demanded of him that he gave? Well, whatever be the case, he got his wife back. They didn't tell us if David chased away Ahinoam that he was living with. They just told us that he acquired his first wife back. I don't know why the Bible keeps contradicting itself. I have brought in all the parts of these stories that were scattered all over the places to make it meaningful. Do you know that Michal, this wife that David loved so much, still despised David after he has become the king? That the Ark of the Covenant came back to the house of David. And you remember, David removed his clothes and danced that dance. And Michal became angry. Why would you expose yourself to the maids of the palace? Why would you? She was angry that David danced to God in happiness. And because of this, she became barren and never had a child all her life. Nobody mentioned the fact that Michal had lived with the first husband. There was no child. She has been living with David even before he became a king and before the ark was returned. What prevented her from conceiving and having children this whole time? And they were making it look like it was because she got angry at David for dancing to the Lord. That was why she became barren and never had a child. There are so much contradictions in Bible stories. Do you know that this same Michal that we are talking about now, that just got mad at David and became barren because of that, all of a sudden God forgot the whole time Michal was an instrument of saving and preserving David? If anybody knows what King Saul did with 200 pieces of anutu that were cut from the Philistines, let the person come and tell us, because my studies didn't get answers to that. The thing is that the marriage that was contracted with 200 foreskins eventually still hit rock bottom. They didn't make it to death do them path. And I didn't know that one could get married and still be given to another man again at the same time. All these things are details that didn't really make sense in this. What would be your reason for taking away somebody's wife and remarry her over to someone else? Because you are the father. Are there no laws to protect the weak from the strong? My name is Vivian. See you guys on the next one. Share and follow for more.